Okay, so now we've looked at the write-off, the percent of sales, and now we're going to look at the, sure we are, we're going to look at another way of looking at it. We're going to look at it by looking at the percent of total accounts receivable, not just for that 1 year, but for prior years and the year we're looking at now. So it's all one big amount. So now what that changes is in the allowance account. So now, since we're looking at the entire amount to do this, we have to take into consideration if there were previous balances, credit or a debit or a credit balance. So let me kind of walk you through this. You're going to have the same scenario. You're going to establish the bad debts, right? You're going to create that. So you're going to establish bad debts. Number 1. So let's do that. Each year they have the percent of accounts receivable method. And this year it was decided that has outstanding accounts of 94,000. So let's get that number out here so we can see it. So they have 94,000, and 6% of that will be uncollectible. So that looks like the amount uncollectible is going to be 56. 56. What have I got? 9450, 6%. So the overall bad debts is going to be 5670, 5,700. Okay, so now this is where it's different. Remember how I said to write down you don't adjust the bad debts with the sales, percentage of sales annually? This is where you adjust it, okay? This is because you have a balance in the allowance account, and that balance includes some of AR. So some of it's already been taken into consideration. So now they give you a scenario. This is the amount that will not be collectible. So in theory. So this is your uncollectible. But you already have an amount of 1607 in the allowance account. So what this whole thing says is you should have a balance. The balance of your allowance account should be 5770. That adjustment between what is there and what should be becomes your bad debts. So, if I already have a credit balance of 16,000 or 1,607, I need a balance of 5670. I have to credit the allowance account, and that would be, to bring that up to that 56, $4,063. So this adjustment here becomes the bad debts expense for this period, instead of the calculation you did here. And this would be a credit. And then the rest of it, if they were to come back and if we wrote somebody off, okay, and then we had to put them back in because they paid, would be just the same as the percent of sales. So this is if you had a balance of 1607 as a credit. Now the other scenario is, what if you had a debit balance and you needed to have a balance of 5670? Well, okay, on the debit side, I'm going to have to credit, but I'm going to have to credit this 5670 plus the 463. So that would look like equal this plus this. And by doing that, oh, this is 473. I'm sorry. To say that's not looking right. By doing that, then if I credit the allowance account, I will end up with a balance of 5670. This becomes my bad debts for that second one. And then, as I said, the rest of your calculations are the same if you have to add back or reverse something you've already written off. Now, does that make sense? So, because we're looking at the entire accounts receivable, we've already taken part of that into account. So, we're just kind of playing with the allowance account. And that is percent of accounts receivable. I didn't go over this in class because I was afraid it would confuse you. But that's how it is done. So